listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you stopping by, especially just before Christmas when we know it's such a busy time of year.
That's cool.
You are Chair of The Warren in Hull, and so we thought it would be great to have you on because we've seen you at our workshops and seminars a lot, and you're always such a great participant to have. And we thought that we would focus this time on the role of the chair in a charity by talking to you as a very experienced chair. So do you want to talk about what got you into the Warren and what the Warren does?
Okay, so my sort of journey, if you like, as being a trustee started in 2013. I had a year of saying yes to everything. So I agreed to be a trustee at what was Relate Hull and East Yorkshire. Is now Hull and East Yorkshire Counselling. And so I kind of had a little bit of a look-see at what that was all about. And it was really cool. It's a really beautiful, well-run, sort of charity. And I have a really, really good friend called Lloyd Atkin, who has a company called BioD, and he's been on the board at the Warren for a while. And he said in 2019, why don't you come along? We're looking for new trustees. It'd be really great. It's right up your street. And I was like, yeah, sure. And that's how I ended up going along, seeing what the Warren was all about, and then agreeing to become a trustee based pretty much on the energy of a guy called JJ, who's the chief exec, and seeing this amazing building and seeing the impact it has on young people in our city. So,
what sort of services do you provide? Because when I went on your website, when I've been speaking to you before, it seems so diverse.
It is. Well, the Warren was actually set up in about 1988. So it's a really, really old sort of well-established sort of charity. And essentially its aims and objectives haven't really changed that much. We were established to care for and provide I don't know what's the word, ambition, support for the less well-served young people in our community. So where we are now is that we have projects that are sponsored by the NHS, that are held up as an exemplar of the NHS, who work with some of the most marginalised and at-risk young people in our community. So young people that are at risk of sexual exploitation, county lines, grooming, kids that are suffering racism, transphobia, all of that kind of thing. And we have various projects that are all externally funded that enable young people to see that they have worth, that they have skills that they can use to take themselves away from those situations and into something that's kind of better.
I saw a really inspirational video actually on LinkedIn that JJ had put together, and it was incredible. The impact was amazing, and that was delivered by a young person talking about their experience.
The really cool thing, and one of the things that's quite a challenge to get your head round, is that particularly as a trustee, is that we don't set the pace, we don't set the agenda as far as what happens for the young people. The young people have a parliament called The Thing. It's completely run by the young people. They make decisions about the direction of travel for the Warren, and then essentially it's down to the staff and then the board to kind of say, what do we have to do to deliver that for the young people? So it's really is sort of empowerment in action, because we don't make the decisions. We have there is a power to veto if something's really off kilter and not where we need it to be in terms of our ethics and what we're all about, but it's never ever been used as the veto. So it's an inverted kind of triangle, really. We're not there saying you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It's the young people that are empowered and in action, doing what they want us to deliver for them to make their lives better.
I really like that, because, and this is a common theme throughout the podcast we've done so far, it's that connection, isn't it, between the people who are using the services, the people delivering it, and the board. And I think as well, when you're working with young people who maybe haven't had the opportunity to have their voices heard, giving them that power to be able to dictate the mission, and this is what we want, this is what we need, and to have people listen. Must be really transforming.
I think it is, definitely. And you see that with young people in terms of how they conduct themselves. They may be quite sort of shy or reticent at the beginning, and you end up with people doing really, really powerful things, whether it's performing on stage or whether it's, petitioning in Parliament, or even just presenting to the board at our meetings about what they're doing and how things are going and what they want to change. You see that kind of you see that confidence kind of grow, and everybody on the board and the senior and the guys, the team at the Warren, are completely focused on delivery of what the young people want, not what anybody else kind of wants. And obviously the role of the board is to make sure we do it all within the law and that we do everything correctly. But it's essentially making sure we're all going in that direction, which is the focus on delivery for the young people.
And what inspired you to step up from trustee to the role of chair? Because I haven't chaired a charity yet. And it's that question, isn't it? Who's going to be our next chair?
Yeah.
So how did that come about, Paula? And also you oversaw a huge regeneration project.
Yeah. I don't quite know what possessed me to say yes, to be honest. But I don't regret that I did. I absolutely do not regret that I did. So in the year leading up to me becoming chair, so that was 2023, I think, we'd undertaken a board review, and that was quite an in-depth discussion with members of staff and young people about what they thought of the board, what they felt about the Warren, what needed to change, what was good. So it was kind of a cards on the table kind of conversation. So I felt really, really lucky to be able to going into my time as chair, knowing exactly what people felt, having met an awful lot of people in the previous months, so that I had faces to names and all of that kind of thing. And also knowing that we had this huge project which was about to start. So I felt that it was going to be super exciting. I knew it was going to be like really, really hard work, but I was kind of not daunted by it. I felt kind of invigorated and energised by it all, really. Yeah, so maybe it was a recurrence of my year of saying yes to everything. Yeah, I'll do that. That's fine.
Why not? But it's such a crucial role, isn't it, on the board? Because everyone's got their own style as chair. So I think it's sometimes easy to fall into the trap of, and I think I've done this sometimes, this is what an effective chair looks like.
Yeah.
And yes, there are some ways you can lead by example, but everybody has their own style.
Yeah.
What would you say your style was? If you've got one.
I think I'm quite direct, and I like to talk things through, and I like to get a consensus of opinion, and then when we're all on the bus, then we'll all know exactly kind of where, sort of where we're going. So, and the reality is I don't have all the answers, and it would be really arrogant and wrong of me to think that I have the way, because the delivery for everything at the Warren is not down to me at all. It is entirely down to the young people who set the pace, and then the staff and the team that then go out and make it all happen, consistently. So I didn't want to upset that kind of alchemy by kind of coming in and saying, that's not right and that's not right and we need to change this. Because basically what we were doing, or what was being done, was working. It was delivering. We'd secured amazing funding. We had contracts that were renewing. We'd secured a long-term lease on the building, so we could go for grants. So there was lots and lots of things that were already right. I didn't feel I needed to change anything kind of root and branch. I just kind of needed to understand it a little bit more. And so that when we did uncover things that potentially needed a bit of extra support or change, it was never coming from a position of, I'm the chair, you've got to do this. It was a case of, right, this has happened. This is what I think we need to do as a result. What do you guys think? And then going out and making that happen.
And how do you approach board meetings in terms of when everybody's in the room and you're there? How does that work?
I think it's probably fair to say that I run an efficient board meeting.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say, because I'm of the opinion that everybody gives up their time, and you need to kind of really make sure there's good value for that time. I don't want waffle. I don't mind conversation, discussion, or, about the topics, but really we kind of need to get to the point, stick to it and get things, kind of done and agreed. But it's fair to say that a lot of stuff before it comes to the board has been through a lot of scrutiny. So we brought in a finance and personnel subcommittee because years ago, when the Warren only had 5 members of staff, that was fine for one person to do everything. But we've got over 30 members of staff now. So you kind of need a little bit more oversight, and you need a little bit more. So one of the things that we did was that we brought everybody's contracts up to date. That protects them, but also it protects the Warren, which is, I want the Warren to still be standing here in 40 years' time. So that process of kind of saying, these are great and they were reviewed whenever, but they're just missing a little bit. So that by the time anything comes to the board, the actual board, it's already gone through a level of scrutiny. We already know that the figures have been checked and treble checked and challenged by the Treasurer. So all of the trustees can feel very comfortable that they're not being presented with something that's half-baked. They're being presented with something that has been scrutinised, has been challenged, and has probably changed from the original, kind of thing, so that we're bringing something that's of relevance to the board.
I think that's a really good approach. Me and Gerry talk all the time about how to hold an effective and efficient meeting. I think schemes of delegating to committees and staff is a really useful approach, because when you get to that trustee meeting, that board meeting, everyone's volunteers, and it's meant to be fun, it's meant to be engaging. Like you say, it's not meant to be burdensome. So I think that's a really interesting approach that we always recommend people
making
take.
the best use of people's skills and bringing out the strengths in people, isn't it? Because everybody's got different strengths, and it's bringing out the best in people, I think. And
we've got a really great board. I think we've got a really superb board. It's very diverse. Everybody on the board brings their own set of skills, whether it's in youth work or whether it's in working with marginalised communities or dealing with music and the arts. So everybody brings something to the board. So I do my best to ensure that everybody is kept up to date. So we have a WhatsApp group that, because the Warren is a really dynamic place and there's always something going on. So you may have seen we've recently started all of our advent calendars.
I have seen those and they look incredible.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Who does those for you?
There's a guy called Paul Lenny, who him and a guys from the thing will put them all together and make them happen.
Have they planned it all out till the end of
and
Christmas?
They've happened for years. And coming up with the actual, subjects of each of them, it's an alternative sort of advent calendar. So coming up with the subjects, and they're all subjects that are very close to our heart and the young people's hearts at the Warren. And they look phenomenal, and they do look amazing. And there's always like the sense of anticipation when the light's going to be.
What's going to be there?
Yeah,
do you know what's going to be there? Have you seen it?
No.
So these are the windows at the Warren. It's is it a particular window? Or are they
it's all built?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an old fire station. So it's a beautifully curved building.
Is gorgeous.
Do you know, just near the Queen's Gardens?
Yeah.
So, and they've got these gorgeous, huge windows that have all been renovated during the refurbishment. So now they don't leak and they're not windy and everything. And now they can, they now take these really amazing kind of advent pictures.
Do you have a favourite one so far?
I love all the hope not hate stuff because I think it's very real and it's very it's happening now for a lot of people in the city, not just young people. There are people that are feeling, kind of the reverberation of some of the divisions that we find in our city.
Yes.
And I think that the hope not hate stuff is really, really powerful. And it is all about about working together and being collegiate and, in putting your energies into something that's positive.
I think it's been defined by things that you love rather than things that you dislike, and it's what you love brings you together and trying to focus on that. But you're absolutely right, especially with what's out there online. People are getting sucked into a lot of things that are really not positive, are they? And it's
so easy to focus on the negatives, isn't it?
Yeah. And what we found is that before the refurbishment, so we knew that going into the refurbishment we would have to move out of the building. So we knew that was going to be super challenging. But before the refurb, we probably had 1,400 young people a year would visit, individual young people that would visit our the Warren or use our kind of projects and things. We moved out to Norwich House, which was just across the way, but it didn't have the facilities. It had some of it, but it was really challenging because things like we offer counselling for young people, and our counselling rooms, they had to have all of these kind of things put in so that there was the privacy. Because in our current building, you knew that everything was safe and secure. But in these buildings where they just had offices that had walls that would put up, it was like we didn't think about this when we kind of went in. And we know that our attendance dropped during that time because there just wasn't the access, the open access of everything. But currently, we're looking as if we only moved back in June this year, and we're looking that we'll be close to 2,000 young people that we will have, that will visit. So it shows that there's a need, and it shows that the Warren as a building is a really special kind of building.
I think it makes a real impact because I walk past there quite a lot, and it always to me feels really welcoming and really inviting. You want to go in and see what's happening in there.
Exactly.
You feel as though you can go in. You don't feel intimidated.
And the place now is just, it's kind of 180 degrees from what it was. So the place is now warm, it's secure, there's no leaks. We have solar energy now, which is what the young people wanted in terms of our future, and obviously to keep handle on costs and things. We have counselling suites, and therapy suites for young people, which are really beautiful. We've got a little reading nook that always goes down really, really well. The Instagram worthy kind of reading nook. And then we've got on the ground floor we've got all of this. I don't know, this kind of open space, which is where young people come in, they can get food, they can be taught how to cook, they can play table tennis, they can just sit on the sofa, they can communicate, have one-to-ones, have any kind of support from any of the youth workers that are on duty at that time, or they can just see their mates, or they can go through to our digital centre called The Curve, where they can learn how to 3D print things that are completely in line with their sort of their hobbies and things like that, without any judgment, or they can learn how to get qualifications in technology or food tech or whatever it is. So it's a really cool and vibrant kind of place.
Warm and inviting place for people to go. And often if they come from places where they don't have that at home, and it's safe and it's somewhere for them to go, because there's an age sort of really where do they go?
Well, exactly.
Between 12 to 18, really. You can't, you're so limited, aren't you? So the streets are usually where people end up. And if home's not always a warm, welcoming place, then having that facility to go must be it's a great thing.
It is. It's really cool, and we've upgraded our facilities. That we've now got a theatre, and we're expanding. And this is all down to the young people saying we would like
on the
this.
Thing.
We would like this. So we go then out and make it sort of happen. So we have theatre space, which then opens up well-being spaces. Yoga, Pilates, and all of that kind of things about the physical. The physical health of the young people. And we've got an amazing music scene that runs from the Warren as well.
I'd noticed that.
Yeah,
do you team up with Beats Bus sometimes?
No, we've not. I don't believe we've done so much with Beats Bus, but we do a lot with the local kind of music scenes. So places like Adelphi and Polar Bear.
Oh, they're so iconic. They are the Adelphi.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah,
it was the launch pad for so many famous bands.
Completely. So part of we get funding. We're an NPO via Arts Council England, and the focus on that is a project called Forged, and that's all about music and delivering and creativity. But through Warren Records, we've got people that are doing their first gigs. We're taking gigs up to Sunderland and down to Scunthorpe and Bridlington. And you might think, it's only Brid, it's only Scunthorpe and stuff, but it's pushing the boundaries of what we're doing.
Spears. Exactly. They get some huge performers.
Yeah. So, and some of these bands are doing their first ever gigs in Polar Bear, which is that takes some doing, and and we regularly heard on places like BBC Six Music, and Cerys Matthews really likes the music. our music scene, because there's some
There
really
is in Hull.
It's an amazing scene. It's really, really cool. And we did there's an EP that's going to be coming out soon called Collaborations, and effectively young people of one genre of music were put together with established local artists of another genre of music, and what they've delivered is been absolutely amazing. They had 2 days, one day to collaborate, connect, and then the second day to record. So very challenging for both sort of parties, because they're forcing them to think differently and behave sort of not how they've used to, but creatively, that is an amazing thing for, an artist to be able to do.
It's the intergenerational connection as well, isn't it? So if these are established artists and older, they've got that experience of producing the music and a different type of music, but also it's that connecting with younger people, they connect with someone older, and it's just fabulous. You can have those friendships across generations.
Absolutely, and then it'll be loaded up onto Spotify, and we can track the streams and everything. So it's not, these things don't happen and then projects get delivered and then kind of nothing happens with them. They're tracked and they're consumed and they're enjoyed by lots of people. So it's quite cool. It's really cool.
What a great opportunity, and it all goes back to the board listening to what the young people want, and that's something that's always, or sometimes, often overlooked.
Definitely. I think over time there can be, we've spoken about this so many times, but a disconnect between the board and the people the charity serves and the people delivering it. But you've demonstrated how with the young people's, I don't want to call it parliament, it's the thing, and they have their thing together, and they're able to actively feed into the services that you're providing. They tell you what
the 3D printing's really stuck with me, because that's something I would have never thought of, but it's so new and popular amongst young people, and a great thing to be able to learn.
It is. It's amazing. So one of the things that we do is on a standing item on our agenda is we have a young person's update. So we have a couple of the young people come and give us an update on what they're doing. So there's various kind of things that fall out of that for me, in that it's great to see young people who have no experience of speaking to potentially a daunting, sort of audience, come in and they're listened to, we ask questions, we really value and respect what they say and what they do. So there's like a confidence thing there that, it shows that they do have a voice and that their voice is really, really important to us as a board of trustees. The other thing that we do, we have 8 meetings a year, and one of those is an AGM. But every 4 months every 3 months, we have our Arts Council England NPO update. So we have a standing agenda and then we have the NPO update. But on the other meetings, we have somebody from the team. So each of the individual departments come and talk to the board about what they do. So we've learned the real sort of nitty-gritty about the impact of the jobs that the guys are doing, the projects that they're working on, the actual impact on the young people. And then very often in the same meeting, you have exactly the same young people that were going, oh, that was amazing. That individual was phenomenal, really supportive, really great. I would never have had the chance to have done this if it wasn't for the Warren. So you find out that all of the trustees find out in real time the impact of what we're doing, of what's being done in the name of the Warren. And that's really cool. That's
really great. I think that must
great.
play a key part in effective decision making as well, because you as the board, your legal duty is to oversee the strategy that the charity's mission is being fulfilled. But often decisions can be taken, and I know I'm guilty of this as a partner in a law firm. You can sometimes take these decisions in a silo. Sometimes I have, and I've not thought about the actual impact, but on the people who are delivering it as well. So your mention of the staff coming in, talking about how they've delivered it, and having that connection is really important.
It really, really is. And the decision making is never one person, and we can bat things backwards and forwards, and eventually we come to a consensus that we all agree on and that we're all happy to to sort of take forward. And that's exactly how the thing operates. They bat things backwards and forwards. So they set up a committee to help with the help with the regeneration of the building. So there was, key decisions being made by young people who were actually going to use the space, everything from the colour of the paint to the feel and the vibe, and also not shying away from some of the really difficult conversations around we can't afford that. We need to re-engineer. So let's prioritise what's actually important and what can we deliver for the budget that we've now got.
Life skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So they see that kind of backwards and forwards and the learning how to compromise, but then the following things through so that, wow, look at this, we were part of making the decisions to have.
Great thing for like CVs and careers.
It's incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of the young people aren't in mainstream education. So they kind of fall through the cracks and, their choices are very, very kind of limited, whether they don't fit into sort of the school system because of neurodivergency or troubles at home or, unsafe kind of surroundings. There's lots of, so there's projects where these young people are empowered to make decisions that have an impact on their lives, and I think that's really cool. It's like it is, but it's very difficult to get your head round if you come from a top-down autocratic perspective. That's not how we operate at all. So you're constantly having to flip it and say, well, what do the young people need? What does the team need to be able to deliver that, and how can we support that? So.
We've sort of touched on this a lot throughout the conversation already, but in terms of governance challenges, you've talked about already how you've overcome quite a few. So avoiding disconnect between the board and the mission, having young people have their own board, as it were, a shadow board, a parliament of their own, a space to bring their ideas to the board and present to the board. Yeah. Are there any other governance challenges you feel you've had to overcome in the board, and particularly overseeing a huge project?
Well, there was the constant sort of sense checking that what we were doing around the refurb was staying within budget, what was moving, what was kind of becoming less likely, what did we need to do as a result of all of that. So that was quite a challenge. There was lots of moving parts in that. But one of the biggest things that we've done in the last year, as you well know, Gerry, is we've updated our articles.
Yes.
And that was really interesting as a project, because
it's more insightful than people think.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so we had a little subcommittee of two board members, and I said, the articles are not, and it was as a result of one of your sessions, actually. I kind of went back and went, crikey, these articles are from 1988. I'm not sure that they're exactly what we needed them to be.
We see older ones. Yeah, I've seen some from the 1700s.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So again, for me, but as the chair, I was thinking, what could go wrong if somebody came along and wanted to challenge something and our documents didn't support our aims and objectives, So it was about protection of the Warren and all the wonderful stuff that it does, but it was a very big job to kind of get the articles read, looked at, revisited, and we finally got them signed off at the AGM. But that was a great feeling, because it meant that we have something called an empowerment policy, which is what really drives the Warren around young people and their decision making. So I feel really strongly that between our empowerment policy, our updated articles, we're kind of we're boxed off. We're strong in terms of the governance side of things, and those articles really are set for 21st century kind of governance, really. Down to things like holding meetings virtually and, making sure that we've got enough, we all understand what being quora is and things like, things like that.
I think it can uncover a lot of things, can't it? Reviewing the articles, things that you wouldn't really think of every day.
And the thing is, it's often, I don't know whether it's just a healthy paranoia that I have, but there are people nowadays that are contrarians. They will simply look to find a loophole, to split, to kind of, cause division and cause issues and kind of take people off course. And I really didn't want to be in that space with the Warren. I really felt that felt very strongly we needed all of our documents, whether they were contracts through to, our articles, that they really had to work for robustly for the 21st century and all of the challenges that we face as, sort of trustees and things now.
And reflect the governance that you have now and that's suitable for the organisation today. But it's interesting, objects are a funny one, aren't they, Harriet?
Did you have to change your objects, or were they still okay?
I think our objects were still very in keeping. They were still very, but we had the conversation about whether the current articles, what needed to change and why they were being changed and what we felt they needed to represent. So
sometimes objects are always, sometimes they can be fit for purpose for years and years and years and they work, and that sounds like what's happened. But sometimes they can be just slightly outdated, or terminology is just not politically correct anymore. We come across that quite a lot, don't we?
And it can often be picked up by funders as part of their due diligence process. When they're looking at whether they fund you, they will ask to see governing documents, specifically organisations like the Arts Council. If it's a significant amount of money or a capital project, they will delve into that governance. And the last thing you want as a board is to be told by lawyers like Harriet and I, well, to change your objects, you need Charity Commission consent, even if it's a fairly benign or mundane change. And if you've got a funding deadline and a project you want to start, that's the last thing you want to hear, because it can take some time.
And the application has to be quite robust as well. Looking at social and economic changes, and it can sound quite obvious to us, but when you have to explain it to the Charity Commission, you have to go to the end to agree with it, really.
We do go through an awful lot of scrutiny, and I think that's one of the... It's hard work, because when you've got big funders like the NHS or the local council or Arts Council England, or, it's important that you demonstrate that we pay particular attention to the governance, and that we're not some kind of two-bit organisation that flies by the seat of our pants. We're really bigger than that, because there's so much, there's so much at stake. So it can be hard work, but when you get your contracts renewed for further 3 and 5 years, and you kind of think, oh, we're doing something right. It's not just the delivery, but it's all the other things that get looked into it as well.
I think it can help you to take a step back as a board as well and think about what's working well. What could we perhaps do differently? Because it's easy to fall into the trap of, well, we've always done this way since 1988. It's always worked. Let's just leave it as it is. But things evolve. They do. And what might have been fit for purpose for you even 5 years ago may not work now. And you made a really good point, actually, that meetings should be enjoyable. Board meetings should be focused, and yes, they are serious at the end of the day, but you should enjoy being there and making that contribution. And if they're not working, how can you change it? Because governance sounds so dull, doesn't it? But actually, it's how your organisation, it's how you fulfil your mission. It's how you be accountable to the people you serve, to your funders. And if it's not working, it's important to take a step back and have a look.
I definitely look at governance as kind of the foundation stone, because if that's not right, everything you build on top is not going to hit. It could crumble at any point. And I would hate it if there was something little in a contract or something like that where somebody decided to be a little bit of a minx about it and cause problems that took our eye off the ball as far as, or put what the Warren was doing in jeopardy in any sort of way. So for me, it is about a proper solid foundation for ultimately for delivery of what we're here for, really. So
how you as a board discharge your duties as well.
So I think as a board it's a very challenging board, and I think everybody feels that they can ask questions and challenge, and they know that my phone's always on if they want to discuss anything specifically, sort of with me. And I think that because of the calibre of the board, I think they're quite a forward-thinking board as well in terms of, have we thought about this or have we thought about that? So, and I think everybody does work well together. I think that there's a huge respect from the board to the team that are out there doing the job day to day and making things kind of happen. So, yeah, I'd like to think we encapsulate that with our interactions and stuff.
It's that culture, isn't it? Encouraging that culture throughout your organisation. And I think as well on the board, it's bringing in people from different backgrounds who've got different views. So when we had Andy Barber on our first podcast, he said that as a charity CEO, sometimes you can go to a meeting And it can be quite nice for a while if you feel like you're not being particularly challenged. You present something, everyone nods it through. But he said that can become quite uncomfortable as a charity CEO. You can feel quite lonely. So having the board ask those questions, not to be disruptive, but just to sort of test ideas and challenge them in an appropriate manner is good, because it helps you to know you've made the right decisions. Because if everyone shared the same views and had the same opinions, how do you know?
Exactly.
It just shows engagement, doesn't it, from the board as a whole. Like they've read everything, they've looked through it, and they've thought about
it.
Contribution.
The senior leadership team at the Warren is rock solid. There's great communication. There's a weekly staff meeting that happens. JJ and Janet and Rachel are, have an open door policy. They live and breathe everything that that kind of goes on, and they're involved in the board meetings. And I try and stay connected to JJ, Janet and Rachel, and just making sure that if they need anything, they know that I'm there. But also, I do like to know what's going on. I don't want to interfere, because that's not my specialism at all. But I do kind of like to know what's going on. And I think we have a forum for that. So JJ writes a board report. So when I send out my papers, so there's the agenda, there'll be the agenda, the board report, previous minutes. And the board report is a couple of pages of what's happening, often financially, what's the state of play with grant funding and applications and all of that kind of thing. And the way that's well received, because it means that we can sit and read, and by the time the board meeting comes round, we have our list of questions that we want answering. So we need to understand, well, what's happening with this? I thought this had been, there might be some inconsistencies or an update that we didn't necessarily want to hear. So what are we going to do about it? So I feel that when you're actually in the board meetings, because we've had the board report, we're not rehashing what's gone on, and you're actually saying, all right, I've got some questions, but what are we doing about it? And we're agreeing kind of the way forward.
It's making that productive use of people's time, valuing your time, which is another thing Andy mentioned and something you alluded to at the start of the podcast. And this is really hard, but just to summarise, Paula, in the time you've been a chair, what would you say are some of the key things you've learned? But then secondly, what would you pass on? What sort of advice or wisdom would you pass on to any aspiring chairs?
Oh, gosh. I think that one of the key things, is that it just comes down to the C word, which is communication, all of the time. Because that's the only way that you understand and being curious about, sort of things. And once you've kind of understand what's going on, you're then in a position to have an informed conversation and provide challenge, So I would say that that's one of the big things I've learned is just how amazing our city is, actually. Just really, really cool. There is such energy from the voluntary sector. They deliver really amazing things, and that doesn't fail to knock my socks off. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and the Warren kind of personifies that in a lot of respects. It's really grown. It's really kind of flexed and has become a big influence, a positive influence in an awful lot of areas around culture, creativity, and young people in the city. And for me, that's amazing. And to be part of that as a trustee and then as chair has just been wonderful. And I think if anybody was thinking about becoming a chair or stepping up, I'd say just do it. And then just make sure that you keep the communication going and that you are open and, you have your listening ears in and you're not too proud to kind of change if things need, if something needs changing. And recognising you're part of a team, because I can only do what I do because I've got the rest of the trustees and we can only support, the Warren team and therefore deliver for the young people if we're all feeling comfortable in our roles,
Thank you so much. So curiosity, that's a really good one. Communication and listening as well, being prepared to have your ideas challenged and to listen, sometimes hear a different point of view, and that teamwork, drawing everyone together. And I think from what you've been telling us today, the Warren is an absolutely amazing example of that communication and teamwork throughout the whole organisation.
It is, and it's really exciting. They're doing lots and lots of tours at the moment. So if you, in the new year, if you want to go and visit and just have a look around, you know, on your lunch hour or something,
great,
you'll have honestly, they'll blow your socks off because you'll just think, wow, this is so cool. And it's almost, you know, it's there and it's huge and it's got this wonderful energy and it's definitely worth experiencing.
I certainly feel that when I've walked past. The vibe is amazing, so you must be so proud of what you've achieved.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, I haven't achieved it, is what
it's
the young guys
together, absolutely.
It's what the young, you know, the young people and the senior team and the guys have gone out and delivered. So
and it's shouting about it now, so people know what you've done. Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.